Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website all about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight as we talk about attitude. So let's get started. But first, haven't done this in a while. So just a reminder, these are, I should say now we have two numbers. These are National Suicide Hotline numbers or just numbers you can call if you find yourself in a really um, bad state of mind. I'm not a medical professional, and so I'll be talking possibly about some things that personally I find useful, which you might find upsetting. If you find yourself feeling upset or depressed, please seek professional medical help or just dial 911. And like I said, now we have 988. That also should be a direct connection to the helpline. So it gives you immediate assistance and someone to talk with. So something good to know for yourself or for a friend if the situation arises. So tonight, I just go through a couple of things related to overall attitude in general. We've talked about different aspects of beliefs and such in the past. Oh, and by the way, of course, if you like what you hear tonight, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message. And if you don't, send me another message saying what you'd like to hear. But so we've talked about beliefs and how they affect our whole life because beliefs are basically a little filter. Anytime you see something, you have an event, some situation or action occurs around you, you see it, you recognize that a thought's formed, and that kind of goes through a filter, and it maps to a belief, and that adds the emotion to it without having to think it through every time. So every time you see something blue, if you like blue, you go, oh, it's blue, I like it, without having to say, oh, blue, what color is that? Do I like that color? Whatever. Beliefs are just kind of automations in your head. And we just talked about this last week about how our response to a situation is kind of it's a powerful tool for changing our immediate attitude. But tonight we're going to take it from a little different perspective because tonight we're going to be talking kind of like what's our overall attitude, kind of our core belief and our overall attitude towards life. And it's related to how we respond not only to specific situations, but also to situations in general. So it's more like defining our kind of baseline response to all things that happen in our life. If your normal attitude is to be looking to be offended, then no matter what someone says, it's likely you'll find a reason to be offended. However, if you tend to be very accepting, if the person were to say the same thing to you, then you'd probably stop and try and understand what they really meant instead of being immediately offended. Perhaps realize that right, maybe English isn't their first language, and so it didn't really mean like it sounded like. And so those sorts of beliefs, we tend to say, "Oh, I'm a sort of person. I'm a short person. I'm a suspicious person. I'm a happy person. I'm a whatever sort of person." And those are your core or baseline beliefs and attitudes. And they go a long way towards shaping your typical response to a situation and to life in general, of course. And that can vary a lot from day to day. Naturally, you have a good day, you're more in a better mood overall, but those variations will probably be more or less of however you normally react. If you're an accepting person, you might be more or less accepting, but you probably wouldn't suddenly become aggressive or easily offended. So they the kind of the way your day is going tempers how it is, but your core beliefs remain constant. However, just like all those other automations in your brain, your fundamental or core attitudes are also learned and they can be relearned to change much of how you perceive the world around you. Because your core attitude is really based upon your beliefs and your beliefs taken in total. And those beliefs then shape your responses to life situations. And your core ones are just ones you've had so very long. You just think that they're your personality. It's the way you always act. And it's kind of interesting because sometimes you get in a completely different situation and say, well, I never really like loud music. And all of a sudden you're in a situation, it's your favorite song playing and it's kind of loud. You can hear it or everything. Go, wow, that's really nice. Because something really happened to change that. And a different belief came in and dominated your core beliefs. You really like that song. And so that belief, that filter kind of changed how you reacted to a situation. So that's a big hint. So we know that all these are just beliefs and we know that we can change beliefs. So, like I say, if it's something like you learned everyone's out to get you, you'll be naturally suspicious. And that belief may have resulted from a single very memorable incident or may have resulted from many small incidents. But as you age and mature, although you think you may be defined by those beliefs, like we just talked about, they, like all our other beliefs in your mind, can be reprogrammed over time. That's not to say you can magically forget all those old habits, but over time they become kind of encouraged to fade away and be replaced with beliefs that serve you better in the present and that you may have consciously selected. So I hope now you see that there's at least a path for changing your belief system to something that serves you better. For more of the details, of course, look back to our previous episodes. We talk about this a lot, and we'll talk about it again in the future. And it's really kind of important because a lot of people I meet, and getting to be more people, they have this feeling that however they act right now, or at least in the memory, how they remember they act, is just it. That's the way they're going to be forever. And what they forget is probably how they're acting now has changed over time. And some of that may have been by conscious change. I know for me, certainly some of my changes were very conscious. I saw things myself that I didn't like and looked for people who acted differently the way I wanted to act, and then observed them to see how are they acting, what's different, and from that learned how their belief system was different than mine. And so I was able to modify how I reacted to a lot of situations. And so there's a lot here that we can go through. I say we'll go through it again, but I think the big takeaway from this is you're not locked into how you are. There's a lot of things that you can control, either to a small or to a large degree. So if there's something about yourself you don't like, oh, I'm just not a morning person, that's something you've learned. There's certain physiological things in people that are different circadian cycles, but a lot of it are learned beliefs. And the good part is you can teach yourself to do a lot of things that you thought you were completely unable to do. And whether it's get up early and do more things in the morning, or do things you never thought you could do. And we've talked about this, getting up and presenting in front of an audience. These are all things that you can learn to do. And even your core beliefs, oh, I'm just too shy to ever present in front of somebody. You can overcome those and really recreate your life. I think that's a super big takeaway. So why am I bringing this topic up now? I was just reading a story that said in the US, only about 12% of the population describe themselves as very happy. And that's the lowest percentage since 1972. There's a group, NORC. NORC is a research center at the University of Chicago. They've been doing this poll since 1972. And the corollary, of course, is that since only 12% of the people think they're very happy, that means 88% of the people feel something under very happy. Of course, this isn't a country that has a standard of living that's much of the world can't even conceive of, let alone expect to experience. So, I know there's a lot of US bashing, and we're just going to set that aside because, frankly, a lot of it's pretty disingenuous. But there's some very real reasons that so many people try to emigrate here, to share in all that we have, to live the lifestyle that we have. But yet, the people who naturally live here, and they actually live here, they can't see it all around them. And that's a real shame on a lot of different levels. But it's also a function of what beliefs we either choose or worse, don't choose to have dictate our lives. If we've chosen a set of beliefs such that everything we see around us can't possibly make us happy, then we won't be happy. And in a lot of ways, we can control what those beliefs are. There's a saying along the lines of the hardest thing in the world to change is yourself. And that's very, very true. But we also know that it's something that we can do because we've learned some techniques to do it already. The reason it's so hard to change yourself, by the way, is if you change yourself, then by definition, you have to say that something you were doing before was not optimal, or worse, saying that what you were doing was wrong. And that's really hard for us because remember, much of our brain's inner functionality is dedicated to supporting and validating our existing beliefs. So when you try and change your beliefs, especially your core beliefs, your brain is in that kind of awkward position of arguing with itself, and it doesn't like that at all. And so the natural tendency is to revert back to the original thought because your memory is filled with a lot of supporting evidence that your previous beliefs were correct. We've talked about this before, and they're in previous episodes. So a big reason for this, though, is so our core beliefs don't keep constantly changing. So we're not always changing with whatever the latest belief and whim that goes by with every new suggestion. The downside of that, however, is it requires real determination and patience to rewire those inner core beliefs. But, if rewiring those beliefs gave you the chance to move into a category of a very happy person, and it seems like it might be worth the effort then, right? And I think it would, but that's the basis of one of the advanced courses we're doing over the summer, and I'll talk about that later. But I think the most important point right now is to realize that when you look around you, it doesn't matter what your political viewpoint is, it doesn't matter what anything is, the way you interpret the world around you, and especially your fundamental beliefs of, when somebody says something and it's one of those instant, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I would never read that because I couldn't, I'm not even going to listen because that argument's so strong. When you do that, those are all your beliefs coming to the surface and controlling how you go through life. And so I hope you start to see that. We've done a lot of foundational work up to this point with discovering and then working to change some of our general limiting beliefs. But all of that builds right into changing even our very core beliefs about how we tend to approach everyday situations and sometimes blind ourselves to a lot of things that we would actually find very nice if we allowed them into our lives. And then related, one more really kind of super important topic, which is related to this and also related to why I was so late starting this evening. I was talking to somebody about this. Part of what keeps our core beliefs so firmly entrenched is how we talk to ourselves. If we're encouraging and positive in our self-talk, we're probably constantly encouraging and reinforcing that we're naturally an encouraging and positive sort of person. But if we constantly criticize and scold ourselves, then we'll probably tend to be critical of all that we do and not recognize or not reward our accomplishments. This is very important. So it's really important that we notice and correct negative self-talk. It's very damaging in every way, even physiologically. We can actually cause bona fide health issues by talking negatively to ourselves. And I find one of the most effective ways to end negative self-talk is to kind of stay alert and be aware that when you do it, and then immediately, and I really do mean immediately, reframe it in positive terms. Instead of saying, I'm so stupid, perhaps say something like, I've learned another way to keep track of little tasks so I don't forget it next time. Or I'm so old, or I'm so young that I've gotten so much valuable life knowledge, or I still have so much energy and exciting things to learn. We talk to ourselves all the time. Some of them are good, some of the time, some are neutral, but a lot of them are really bad. The kind, what an idiotic thing to do. Back up, immediately stop that, recognize it, stop it, back up, say, okay, what did I do? I left my keys on the table. It's kind of, here's another opportunity to find a better way to get my keys in a position that I won't forget them when I walk out, right? Life does things for you, not to you. Everything isn't something negative, and you got to learn to find the good things in that. And so it's very much how you choose to react to the thought and how you automate that into a belief. And by choosing how you react and changing how you react, you'll change that belief and you'll change how you talk to yourself. So if you find any negative self-talk creeping into your mind, particularly after a stressful and difficult situation, then start by trying to reframe it and see the positive side of the situation. Hopefully that'll begin to break that negative cycle. So your homework, not that there's really homework, but your homework, which is totally optional, of course, is to pick one core belief of yours and think about whether it's still serving you in a positive way. And, is it consistent with who you want to be and consistent with your goals? If it is, that's really great. And, then you go on another day and pick another belief. But if it's not, what belief would you rather have and replace that limiting belief with? And for bonus points, if you want to try and be aware when you're doing negative self-talk to yourself, then hopefully you're not doing that. But if you are, then try and reframe each time into a positive light and see the good of what life just gave you. So, that's it for the evening. And of course, we have the two first courses, ukr7.com. Please remember the war in Ukraine, and remember that everywhere there are disasters and people who need help. If you're able and interested, the page of Ukraine donations still up at UKR7. And of course, also there is World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. Talked about them a lot. They do great humanitarian work. They bring food to people who need it all over the world. They're not only in Ukraine, they're worldwide, and they're active all the time. So if you're looking, for places you can donate, those are two great places. UKR7.com has a list of links to other links to other links, and WCK.org is World Central Kitchen. They do great stuff all the time. So if you can and you're able, please check it out. Remember, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along, and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.